This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Christopher Mitchell, 212th Trooper, Sylar 1610, and Papa Poto, and brought to you by Normandy 1998 who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon or become a channel member and select the Pickle Producer tier, since among other benefits, you get to make a video request every month, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story. Also, while I have you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, since it costs you nothing and really helps the channel to grow. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the story. We rejoin our heroes back in Pallet Town 2 weeks after the Wallace Cup. Though for Ash and Serena, that contest feels like a lifetime ago, as the pair have been hard at work getting ready for the Indigo League and Grand Festival respectively. Despite having a place in both, Lissy is not with them, having chosen to accompany Misty and her uncle back to Hoenn instead. While this is partially the result of homesickness after being on the road for so long, this is also a pragmatic decision, as before leaving, the Sutopolian girl revealed that she intends to bring back some friends from her previous contest circuit, so she will need some time to get them all back into ship shape. Not to mention some one-on-one training with Contest Master and former Hoenn League champion Wallace will help ensure that she is at her best too, since that way she can show her companions just how much they mean to her by giving them both the battles of their lives. Recognizing they will need to be at their best too, Ash and Serena have held nothing back in their training, with Brock staying with them at Lissy's request, since while she would like to show her Boa home, there will be enough time for that later. Right now, the sweetest thing he can do for her is ensure that her drive to excel is reciprocated by her rivals. To this end, Brock has pushed the duo as hard as he can in the name of love, with this being slightly terrifying, as neither Ash nor Serena have seen him so focused, perhaps with the exception of the battle against Sabrina. Fortunately, his stolid and stalwart nature is a good countermeasure to this zeal, ensuring that he does not lose sight of himself in the face of this goal. As while he does make them train well, he puts just as much effort into making sure they eat well and rest well, with this truly being the culmination of his experiences as a parental big brother, gym leader, and Pokemon breeder. Thanks to all this attention and care, both Ash and Serena see good gains, as their entire teams benefit from Brock's guidance, with even Professor Oak having to commend the kids on the fine Pokemon they've raised, while Delia radiates pride at how much they've grown up since setting out on their adventures. Speaking of adventures, the trio do not go on as many as Ash, Brock, and Misty did in canon, as many of these were the result of Ash procrastinating or doing a job for Professor Oak, with Brock not allowing the former, while Oak himself does not burden them with the latter, having Gary do these tasks instead, since he is more than confident he's already good to go for the league. Subsequently, the group do not see much of the younger Oak, with Serena being internally grateful, since this means Gary can't pester her as much as he is wont to do, though his presence, or lack thereof, does remind her and Ash they need to put some time into mastering Mega Evolution, since not only does he possess a Mega Stone, but so does Lissia, and as they saw in the Viridian Gym, she's fully capable of using the power, so they'll need to rise to the same level if they want to stand a chance of beating her. Unfortunately, with the phenomenon being so rare in Kanto, the pair aren't really sure where to start, with Ash suggesting they do some practice battles, since that's when Pokemon tend to Mega Evolve, so maybe if they just keep doing that, they'll feel something different. Having no better ideas, Serena agrees, though after 2 days of non-stop clashes between Gengar and Pidgeot that leave the pair of Pokemon exhausted, neither she nor Ash feel any closer to unlocking the secret. Thankfully, they're not alone, as one evening when the kids return to the Ketchum residence, Professor Oak is waiting for them, having agreed to stay for dinner, and figuring he might know something since he is a Pokemon expert, Ash and Serena regale him with the difficulty they are having. Adopting a thoughtful expression, Oak nods that he can see their thinking, though he believes they're going about it the wrong way, and suggests that perhaps they would be better off spending some quality time with the Pokemon they're trying to Mega Evolve. After all, while he is not nearly as versed on the subject as Professor Sycamore, he's heard it said that the key to Mega Evolution is the strength of the trainer and Pokemon's bond just as much as the strength of their bodies, so after putting so much time into the latter, why not take tomorrow to shore up the former? Seeing the wisdom in this, Ash and Serena both agree, and so the following morning set off on their own private adventures with Pidgeot and Gengar. Ironically, as the first to rise, Ash also leaves the house first, calling the bird Pokemon from its ball and asking if there is anything it would like to do today. For a moment, Pidgeot does not give any form of answer, instead simply enjoying the sun and breeze on its feathers. Then, as it touches down, it lowers a wing to the ground as if beckoning its trainer to climb onto its back. Excited by the prospect of flying, Ash eagerly clambers aboard, then once Pidgeot is sure he's holding on, it shoots skyward, with it taking all of Ash's grip strength to hold onto the normal flying type's multicolored head crest. All the same, when sound bursts from the boy's lips, it is as an exhilarated chuckle followed by a whoop, as he grins that he always knew Pidgeot was fast, but actually feeling it for himself is something else entirely. Looking back with a slight smirk as if to say, "You ain't seen nothing yet, kid," the regional bird then tucks its wings against its side, causing it and its rider to go plummeting back towards the earth like a ton of bricks, before with a whoosh it fans out its feathery wings once again, catching the wind and gliding a little off the ground. Thanks to Pidgeot's incredible flying speed, even this short demonstration has already carried the pair halfway up Route 1, with Ash calling this amazing once he realizes where they are and gives his first capture a tender pat on the head. Preening slightly at this affection, Pidgeot lets out a happy trill as it continues to glide through the air, having no evident destination beyond simply enjoying its flight with Ash. As a result, it does not care when the open route gives way to forest, even welcoming it to a degree, as now it can show off its agility, soaring as close as it can to the massive trees, then darting to the side or rising above them, while Ash cheers and calls it awesome. Unfortunately, it seems not everyone is having such a good day, as when Pidgeot bursts through the foliage of a particularly large tree to get a bird's eye view of the forest, it sees several small Pidgey and even a few Pidgeotto being harassed by a flock of Spearow led by a particularly vicious Fearow. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Ash gasps that it looks like it's the same flock that attacked him and Serena on the first day of their journey, and remembering just how harrowing that was, he orders Pidgeot to descend, with the regional bird not needing to be told twice as it flies down and positions itself between the Spearow flock and their victims. Naturally, the group of aggressors are none too happy about this development, and so go on the attack, figuring that several dozen of them will be able to make short work of a single Pokemon and its trainer, even if it is a final stage. However, this is a gross overestimation of their own abilities and an equally dire underestimation of Pidgeot's, as when the Spearow attempt to dive bomb their prey from all sides, Pidgeot simply manifests a gust that sends winds whipping in all directions, catching the smaller birds and sending them crashing into trees, rocks, and the forest floor, where they lie unconscious. From a slight distance away, the Fearow leader eyes this with interest, having not expected its followers to go down in a single hit, though rather than being afraid, its beak twists into the closest approximation of a smile that it can manage, as this just means it will get to have a little fun with the bird and boy duo before it clips their wings and puts them in their place. Letting out a fearsome caw, Fearow then shoots forward like a missile, its bladed beak aimed right at Pidgeot's breast, though seeing this coming, Ash calls for a wing attack that the normal flyer deftly delivers, using its wing like a shield to parry the oncoming attack, and send Fearow flying off course. Though this is just the opening salvo, as a moment later Fearow attempts the second attack, this time from behind, with the plan being to strike Ash and use the weakness court Pokemon have for their trainers to make Pidgeot vulnerable. However, once again Ash and his avian friend are more than up to the challenge, as when Pidgeot hears the sound of its foe approaching it lurches sideways, avoiding the worst of the attack, even if it does take a glancing blow on its wing. Seeing this, Ash calls out in worry, though giving its trainer a resolute look, Pidgeot does not let this slow it down, taking the fight to Fearow this time as it closes in and drives a wing attack into its long scrawny neck. Letting out an enraged squawk, the big Pokemon decides to give Pidgeot a taste of its own medicine, as by using Mirror Move, it is able to whip one of its wings into the other bird's underside, jostling it and almost causing Ash to go toppling off its back. Thankfully, our young hero manages to maintain his grip, with him giving a quick tug on Pidgeot's crest to signal they should turn wide. Then, once they have a bit of distance for build-up, he calls for a quick attack. Putting its faith in Ash to hold on, Pidgeot does not hesitate to carry out this order, shooting forward at top speed and ramming hard into Fearow. Then, before the other bird can retaliate, it zips into the tree line for cover. Unsurprisingly, the wild avian does not take this lying down and so pursues, this time using Drill Peck to split several trees down the middle as it zeroes in and strikes its target in the side for considerable damage. Seeing a chance to finish things while its prey is weak, Fearow then performs an aerial loop and begins prepping a giggy impact that will surely take Ash and Pidgeot out, with the boy and bird reaching the same grim conclusion a moment later. That is, unless they can tap into Mega Evolution right now, as the power it grants might be just enough to tip things in their favor. Looking into each other's eyes, the pair know they are of the same mind at that moment. The only question now is if they are of the same heart too, with Ash choosing to believe they are, as he pulls out his keystone and commands Pidgeot to use Wing Attack one more time. Needing no further confirmation, the rainbow-crested avian shoots forward once again, though this time something is different, as it feels something flowing inside it, an energy that is not its own but also feels as though it belongs there. And so tapping into that sensation, it feels its body begin to shift as its plumage spikes up above its head, and its wingspan grows to almost twice its prior size. And best of all, it feels powerful, more powerful than it ever has before, so that as its now supersized wing collides with Fearow, the basic bird can do nothing but crumple under the force and collapse to the ground, thoroughly beaten. From its back, Ash lets out an excited whoop as he calls Mega Pidgeot the greatest, with the proud pigeon preening as it prepares to take its new speed and power for a test drive, only to immediately revert to its base stage in a small flash of light. With this comes a wave of exhaustion, and catching sight of this, Ash urges his friend to touch down, while stroking its head and giving it his most heartfelt praise. While it was only brief, the two of them tapped into Mega Evolution just like they wanted to, and now that they've done it once, they can do it again, and next time they'll build up a bit more endurance, so that before they know it, they'll have mastered it. Letting out a happy tweet at this thought, Pidgeot nuzzles its trainer fondly, Then once it's regained a bit of its strength, the pair head off to enjoy the rest of their day together. Meanwhile, Serena and Gengar are in the midst of their own little adventure. Due to being more emotionally intuitive than Ash, the honey-haired girl has recognized what might be the block for Gengar when it comes to Mega Evolving, that being the fact that it did not choose to evolve into its present state, and had no time to prepare or adjust. In fact, the circumstances of its recent evolution are still something of a mystery, so perhaps by getting the ghost more comfortable with its new form, it will feel ready to try acquiring another one by Mega Evolving. To this end, as she begins making her way up the main street with Gengar floating by her side, Serena suggests they do something fun for their day out, like watch a comedy movie or maybe play a prank on Gary, all things she knows Gengar enjoyed as a haunter, in the hope that if it sees that it is still the same Pokemon inside, it will become more comfortable in its skin. This sweet and thoughtful gesture is not lost on Gengar, who gives the girl a wide toothy grin, though all the same it shakes its head, seemingly having something else in mind. As today is all about bonding with the ghost poison type, Serena smiles and urges it to lead the way, with Gengar subsequently flying a little faster so that its trainer is forced into a jog to keep up. Due to having travelled this road several times before, namely on the day she received her starter, Serena has no difficulty recognizing the way to Oak's lab, though rather than enter through the winding steps that lead to the front door, Gengar decides to fly directly up the hill and into the corral, while the girl attempts to keep pace as she scrambles up the grassy incline. However, to her surprise, when she joins her spectral friend in the paddock, she sees that she is not the only human there, though the other inhabitant is not Oak or one of his aides, but instead an elderly woman with a walking stick and plum-coloured dress who smirks knowingly when she catches sight of the new arrivals. In a sly voice, she then muses that Gengar must have sensed her, or perhaps her partner, before at last addressing Serena, as she questions if this ghost is hers. Feeling a bit self-conscious to be meeting an elder while grass-stained and a little sweaty, the honey-haired girl bows respectfully and nods that it is, with this earning her a faintly sardonic titter as the old woman then asks if it has always been so, or if she received it recently in a trade. Still self-conscious, Serena replies that she caught it as a haunter back in Lavender Town, and that she actually doesn't know how it evolved, since she never traded it away. Narrowing her eyes a little, the old woman barks at the pair to come closer so she can get a better look at them, and being a little startled by this harshness, Serena and Gengar both obey, with it being difficult not to quail under the piercing gaze the stranger gives them. Finally, when she is satisfied with what she sees, she nods that she believes their story, though it's most curious, though perhaps she is a friend who can help clarify things. As she says this, she bangs her cane once on the ground, with Serena being surprised to see that what she had thought was an ornamental handrest is actually a real Pokeball, as out from it slithers a mass of indigo shadows, which quickly reform into another Gengar. Looking down at her partner, the old woman questions if it can gather some insight on how the younger one evolved, to which the sinister spectre nods, before beckoning Serena's Gengar closer. Then, before the younger Gengar can react, its elder counterpart dives at it, before seemingly phasing into it when they come into contact. Bluntly, the woman explains that her Gengar has now taken possession of Serena's, and by examining its memories from an outsider perspective, it may be able to see something the youngster didn't. Truthfully, the girl feels that it would have been polite to ask for permission first, though since this may help Gengar, she does not object, instead watching on as her friend seemingly enters a trance. Finally, after what feels like forever, the old woman's Gengar reappears, and when its trainer cocks her head as if asking for a report, it sticks its thumb in its mouth and blows, with the result being the spikes on its back and head extending and curling to create a decent approximation of Jessie's hair. Curiously, the woman then asks if this means anything to Serena, with the girl explaining that Gengar's imitating a Pokemon thief who briefly stole her Haunter during the Wallace Cup, with that being the last time she saw her friend in its previous form, as when she next called it out, it had become Gengar. Raising her eyebrows as if unimpressed by this brat's inability to connect the dots, the old-timer states that perhaps these events are connected, as trade is simply the transfer of ownership from one trainer to another, with this theft possibly qualifying, though the girl would have to ask Samuel, since that old nerd probably knows what factors in a trade trigger evolution. From behind her, Professor Oak's voice then placidly replies that he most certainly does, his tone and expression showing no annoyance for the rude comment made about him. Instead, he muses that Agatha may be right after all, with this giving Serena a small shock as she had no idea she was speaking with a member of the Elite Four. Spotting this, the old woman cackles that she's glad the young ones still know her name, if not her face, while Oak reflects on Team Rocket's attack on the Wallace Cup, with him ultimately concluding this more than likely did cause Gengar to evolve, and was no doubt quite a shock for the Shadow Pokemon. Nodding soberly, Serena agrees before kneeling down to be eye level with Gengar as she apologizes for not being able to save it from that, since as its trainer, it's her responsibility to look after it. However, she promises that she won't let anything like that happen ever again, which means she won't force it to Mega Evolve if it doesn't want to either. For a moment, Gengar looks deep into her eyes, then as its trademark smile forms on its face again, it wraps Serena in a hug. From his position a small way away, Oak says that such a moment as this deserves a poem, though tersely Agatha tells him not to ruin it, since it's clear these two have forged a destiny bond and don't need some oldsters butting in. Turning to face his old rival with a surprised grin, Oak asks if she really just made a Pokemon pun, to which Agatha shrugs that after so long he must be rubbing off on her, before beckoning the professor to join her inside, as she did come all this way to see him after all. When it is just the two of them, Serena and Gengar end their hug, with the girl asking what her friend would like to do with the rest of their day, since even if they're not training for Mega Evolution, she still wants to spend time with it. Though letting out a boisterous cackle of its own, Gengar reaches down its throat and pulls out its Gengarite, as if to signal that it never said anything about giving up on Mega Evolution, it just wanted her to acknowledge its feelings first. That evening, when Serena and Ash reunite at his house, they are both worn out but bearing matching smiles as they recount the events of their adventures. Hearing this, Brock and Delia give their congratulations, as it seems they both had productive days. In this, the elder pair are quite correct, as when they resume their Mega Evolution training the next day and the days that follow, they find it a bit less daunting and significantly more attainable. Though this is not their only training, as the pair make sure to also work with their other Pokemon so that no one is left behind, which for Serena means planning her appeals for the Grand Festival, since there are 2 appeal rounds before the battle stage this time, while Ash does some mock battles with his team led by Pikachu, who is eager to maintain his place at the head of the team. Thanks to this, when the time comes to begin making their way to the Indigo Plateau for the Grand Festival, both feel confident in their abilities, though before they can go there is one order of business left to attend here in Pallet Town. A goodbye and good luck dinner hosted by Delia at the Ketchum residence. Even Professor Oak and Gary drop in, with the younger Oak in turn being treated as another honoree since this will be his first league run too, and with he and Ash having learned to coexist during their time in Kalos, this is a pleasant evening for everyone, with Oak in particular expressing great pride in all 3 of the youngsters, as they've come a long way from the small children who attended his summer camp all those years ago. The next day, Ash, Brock and Serena set off at last for the Indigo Plateau, which will be their home for the next little while. Due to leaving earlier than canon thanks to the Grand Festival predating the Pokemon League, they do not run into Atoshi and his Marowak, though they do come across 2 familiar faces waiting for them outside registration. The first is Grace, who is quick to embrace her daughter, and upon seeing Serena's shocked expression replies that she wouldn't dream of missing this. In fact, she even had a special outfit made for the occasion, with this making the younger Kalosian beam, as she thanks her mum and promises that she'll see her wear it when she's holding the Top Coordinator trophy. As for the second arrival, this is unsurprisingly Licia, who greets the boys with hugs and smiles before turning to Serena with fire in her eyes, as she asks if the other girl is ready for the rigors of the Grand Festival. Nodding confidently, the honey-haired youth replies that she sure is, since she's been training her hardest, a claim that makes the Sutopolian smile, as she extends a hand for her rival to shake, before stating may the best coordinator win. Following this, the now reunited group make their way inside, and after showing off their ribbons, the 2 girls are granted admission to the backstage area, while Ash, Brock and Grace proceed into the stands so they can watch the first appeal round. As it turns out, this round will be unlike any appeal seen in any other contest, as in order to trim down the 270 contestants to a more manageable 64, each coordinator will only be allowed to show off a single move, with this being assessed by the judges to see who is worthy of advancement. It is a rather harsh system, but everyone present knows the Grand Festival is only for the best of the best, so there are no complaints as Serena takes her place on stage, having randomly been assigned the first performance spot. Striding forward with Eevee by her side, the Closian has no trouble choosing which move to show off, as in a ringing voice she calls for VV Volley. At once, Eevee adopts a golden glow, and as it launches forward and zigzags around the stage, an audible gasp comes from the audience, many of whom have never seen the lost move before. Knowing to be outdone by a young rival, Licia also chooses to do something seldom seen when her number is called about 2 hours later, and so taking her place at center stage with Pikachu, now in her dress and bonnet, she orders an icicle crash. However, this is no simple iteration of the move, as when Pikachu spits his icicles into the sky, they begin falling in a very distinct pattern, so that when they land, she and Licia find themselves standing in the center of a lightning bolt made of icy dominoes. Unsurprisingly, these appeals are more than enough to grant both of the heroines a place in the second round. Though that was the easy part, as next up is the actual appeal that will determine which 16 are worthy of advancing to the battle round for a chance to call themselves a top coordinator. This time, it is Licia who goes before Serena, with her Pokemon of choice being one of those fabled old friends from a previous contest circuit, specifically a shiny Galarian Rapidash, whose pastel yellow and teal mane, alabaster fur, and majestic horn make it look as though it is canted right out of the pages of a fairy tale. Evidently, the judges think so too from their excited murmuring, while MC Lillian gushes that she can already tell this is an exceptionally well-tended and trained Pokemon. In this, she is quite correct, as wanting to use her allotted time to the fullest, Licia orders her friend to start off by combining Droron with Zen Headbutt to give its horn a bright pink ribbon of psychic energy that seems to twirl endlessly like a navy and pink barber's pole. Then, if this weren't beautiful enough, the young coordinator adds on to this by having it channel dazzling gleam through the horn as well, to make the ribbon glow, so that as it continues swirling it casts streaks of pink light across the stage, walls, ceiling and audience, to create a magical atmosphere fitting for a mythical unicorn. As one, the audience erupt in cheers for such display of control and creativity, with Mr. Sukizo offering a most emphatic, remarkable, while Ash, Brock and Grace among many others give Licia and Rapidash a standing ovation. From backstage, Serena is likewise impressed by her friend and rival's performance, though she is also unnerved, as after so long travelling together, she had come to regard Licia as just another of her companions, though this showing has been a stark reminder that she is already a top coordinator, so if she, Serena, wishes to stand on par with her, she'll have to give nothing but her absolute A-game moving forward. With this in mind, she then returns to the stage while Licia flashes her an encouraging smile as she passes in the opposite direction, though instead of having the intended result, it just makes the younger girl's stomach drop. Nonetheless, refusing to lose her nerve, when the call is given to begin, she brings out Gengar, and has it start by manifesting half a dozen Shadow Balls which it balances on the tip of its tongue. However, this is far from the full extent of her performance, as she next has it use Lick to launch the balls across the stage, only to promptly bat them back with Sucker Punch. Then, as they draw close, she calls for another Lick to send them out again, with this two-move combo creating an effective volley that shows both the Ghost Poison type's abilities and the way it manages to dart around the field to maintain the volley, as well as its sense of whimsy, in that it is playing a game with itself. On balance, this demonstration of technique, control, and creativity should be enough to earn Serena a place in the top 16. Though after Licia's incredible appeal, she is not so sure, and so decides to throw in an unplanned grand finale for good measure. To this end, she instructs Gengar to sucker punch all the balls back at itself at the same time, before pulling out a keystone and bidding it to Mega Evolve. Due to the deepening of their bond back at Oak's lab, Gengar's Megastone reacts to this call, with the Shadow Pokemon actually shrinking slightly as its legs disappear and replaced with much longer arms. However, in spite of this loss of limb, Gengar's speed has actually received a sizable boost, so that when the shadowy orbs draw near, it is able to whip out its tongue and gather them all up like at the start. Though, as everyone will see, Serena does not intend to simply bookend things here, as in a demonstration of the increase in power bestowed by Mega Evolution, she has Gengar force the Shadow Balls to converge into a single sphere, then expand by pumping more and more ghostly energy into it. At first, this is an awe-inspiring sight that will surely guarantee her a spot in the battle round. But then, things start to go wrong. Due to still being quite new to Mega Evolving, Gengar is not yet used to its increased power or how to regulate it, with this becoming apparent by how quickly the Shadow Ball is swelling, with no sign of stopping, despite Serena's call to dissipate it. Then, if that were not bad enough, when the ball reaches its zenith, it detonates with a flurry of spectral fireworks that fill the stage with darkness, while also blasting Gengar back and out of its Mega Evolved state. Worriedly, Serena rushes in to check on her friend, finding it hurt but still conscious, so that as the gloom fades, it is still able to give a bow, though as the honey-haired girl glances up at the inscrutable faces of the judges, she cannot tell if they think she meant to end that way so she could go out with a bang, or if they knew her finale quite literally blew up in her face. As a result, when she returns backstage to find her friends and mother waiting, she cannot draw much comfort from this, instead nervously pacing while everyone assures her that even with that minor hiccup at the end, the rest of her performance was so good that she's sure to get through. Finally, after what feels like forever, the final appeal ends, allowing the judges to announce the 16 coordinators who will be advancing to the battle round as their faces flash on screen. Naturally, Licia is first as the highest scorer, with this earning praise from everyone, though as Serena watches, she does not see her face among the top 5, or the top 10, or the top 15. By now she can barely stand to look, though all the same she keeps her eyes firmly on the screen, as the 16th and last finalist is revealed. And that's where we'll leave things. Did Serena make the cut for the battle round? Can she and Ash truly master Mega Evolution in the time they have left? And who will be crowned as Kanto's newest top coordinator? Find out as the journey continues.